Really beautiful day here, and it's the first lovely day we've had for quite some time. I've actually been signed off work for 3 weeks with my chronic migraine, which have just totally taken a hold of me, and I've really been struggling of late. So I'm not really feeling my best, but I thought I would use some of my time on a morning where I'm not feeling too terrible, just to give you a little update here on the farm. So I'm just in the chicken area at the moment, and if you recall from my last video, and any of you that have chickens or even don't have chickens might be aware that at the moment we have the risk of avian influenza or avian flu, bird flu, which is sort of sweeping across the nation. Now, it is something that happens periodically, and in the time that we've been keeping chickens, I think this is about the 4th time, possibly more, that we've actually had to kind of keep our chickens enclosed. But I think with everything else that's going on in the world at the moment and this constant talk of lockdowns, it's really kind of hit the headlines that now chickens are having to be locked down. But as I say, this is something we've had to do before, and it really is in their best interests. So this is only my interpretation. As a lot of you know, I am a veterinary nurse and obviously a smallholder, but this is by no means law or gospel. This is my interpretation of what I believe we should be doing at the moment with our chickens, and I'll just show you what we're doing with ours. So I did briefly show you as they were coming out to get their breakfast. So again, those of you that follow will know that we have this really lovely chicken area with quite a considerable amount at the bottom. Now, when we bought this chicken coop, I love the fact that it's kind of got the legs and that it's got the little ladder to go up and the sleeping area in the back. Ours also lay. We don't have a separate laying and sleeping area. I know a lot of people do. We don't, and it works out fine. When we bought this, it actually, if I just move forward, it didn't have this little pop hole here for the birds to go from the enclosed area out. So it's obviously designed for those that haven't got a huge amount of area, that you know, you'd have 2 or 3 birds that would live in here during the daytime and underneath, and then go in and sleep at the back. Now, for us, the actual size of the sort of sleeping area, and it did actually state when we bought it that it was for about 12 birds, which I totally, you know, let's just open again and remind you, you comfortably get 12 plus birds sleeping in here, but I personally don't feel that this space underneath would be enough to permanently keep 12 birds. Realistically, I just don't think there's enough space there for them. Now, one of the features I do like about this is if I just squat down, you can see that they can get underneath the back there, and because it's under the sleeping area, that area often stays very dry, and you can probably see there's kind of hollows there, and they really like to hunker down there and make dust baths. So it is a nice design. I like the fact they can get under there, they can get out of the rain if they need to, out of the sun if they need to, but as I say, we popped that little pop hole in. Hello beautiful, flappity flap. We popped that little pop hole in at the back there because we do free range hours in a larger area. So as you know, those of you that follow me, I'll just pan around. Usually they then get to free range in this area, which we tend to refer to as the orchard, and if you see all the apples there, you will see why, because we've got these apple and damson trees here. But at the moment, because of the avian flu, we have had to rig up an area. So essentially what we've done is we wanted to make this slightly bigger. You can see these rails come out a bit further, and if we turned this top around, that was the plan, to come out, but then it was actually, it didn't work because of the width of this against the width of the actual coop. So this is what we've done for now. So we've given them extra space. So as you can see, they've got the space there and the space underneath. Now, I genuinely would never keep my chickens in such a small enclosure under normal circumstances, but I am complying with the guidelines at the moment. The chickens need to be undercover, and they need to be in an area that they can't come into contact with wild birds, and wild birds can't come into contact with them, because obviously the wild birds that are flying around from A to B to C to D and so on, and they could potentially be bringing that avian influenza from place to place to place. So as I say, we're doing the very best that we can. There are other measures we could potentially take. So we could use a finer mesh over the top of the enclosed areas and the wire on the side of the chicken coop, but there is only so much you can do. If we do find that the wild birds are, coming over to this area and we can see that there's an issue with droppings, then we will have to reconsider. But this is a very similar setup to what we've done in the past, and we haven't had any issues. So essentially we want to keep the birds safe, we want to stop wild birds from interacting with them and wild birds from accessing their food and water, and to keep droppings from wild birds from getting into the food and watering area or anywhere near where the chickens are. We want to keep the chickens stimulated mentally and physically, so we will keep popping turnips and apples and other bits and pieces in there for them, move around little perches and so on, so they've got things to climb on and off. Every time you put something new in for chickens, they go a bit nuts for it, and it kind of gets them a bit excited. So it's really important that we keep giving them environmental enrichment. So I'm going to leave the chickens to it. They've got lots of water, they've got food, their bed is nice and clean, so we'll leave them alone. And I'm just going to go across to something that could be considered controversial, but I will talk you through it and my reasonings why. I don't know if you can see here, I'm just going to put the chicken thing down. Here I've got my wild bird feeder, and I've always enjoyed feeding the wild birds, and it's something that's become quite important to me. Now my bird feeders, as you can see if I turn around, are right next to my chicken area. I thought long and hard about this, and my initial reaction was that I should stop using these bird feeders and that I shouldn't be encouraging wild birds. But my two thought processes are, number one, the birds have got used to this food source and I don't want to suddenly remove it. We've lived here now for 3.5 years. Ever since we moved here, we've been using these bird feeders and encouraging and enjoying the birds. And I just feel that, the temperatures are dropping, it's cold, I shouldn't just suddenly remove that food source that our local birds have got used to. My other train of thought and logic is that if I'm feeding the wild birds over here, there should be less reason for them to want to go over and look for food around our chickens. Now the main birds that actually tend to go over in the direction of the chickens are the larger birds, and magpies and crows and so on. So I haven't seen them around since we've started using the mesh and keeping them away. They're very much kind of opportunists. They fly over, we can get to that food. If they can't access it, they clear off. There's no reason for them to want to hang around in that area. They have been picking up a few of the dregs from here. So my logic is that if I'm encouraging them to come over here, they're less likely to go looking for the chicken food. And as I say, I don't want to just cut that food source off. And that's the way I'm thinking about it. I'm sure there will be those of you that disagree, there may be those of you that agree, but that's our thought process and that's my reasoning behind it. Obviously, if it were to cause issues, or if the government were to, if I were to have a check, we do occasionally get a farm check, and I were to be told, no, I mustn't do this, well, obviously we would stop. But as I say, that's the thought process we've gone through. And for now, that's what we're going to continue doing. So as I say, this is one of the nicest days we've had for a long time. It's really, I just balanced my coffee, it's really helping to lift my spirits. I don't know any of you that might be chronic migraine sufferers or just migraine sufferers, yeah, I don't want to hark on too much about it, but my health has really taken a downward spiral, and I've been getting really intense migraines for about 21 days out of 30, and most of them resulting in me not being able to function. So I can't do my job at the moment, I'm no use, and rather than keep letting people down or just not being able to do the jobs I should be able to, my doctors have decided it's a good idea to sign me off, which I'm absolutely gutted about. I love my job, I want to be in the clinic. I'm not going to go on too much about that because it's just going to make me feel, really emotional. So I'm really lucky that I live here on the farm. It's a great place to recuperate. I have had an emergency, or should I say an urgent, it's not an emergency, urgent referral back to neurology. I was under the neurology department, but I was signed off from them quite some time ago. They've never really got things under control, and as I say, they're just getting worse. So I've been referred back, but I won't be holding my breath. It could be some months before I'm seen. So I'm trying to do things myself that will help me. And one of those things is just being here on the farm, taking some time out. So anyway, enough about that. I'm going to take my coffee and you, and let's pop over to the Polytunnel. So here we are, one of my most favourite places in the whole wide world. Just being on the farm is so healing, being around the animals. I'm not riding at the moment, I just don't feel well enough, but just being with the horses, being with the plants, the chickens, the dogs, the sheep, just being around the farm is, as I say, so healing. So nothing's really changed in here. Carrots and leek, and the potatoes, parsnips, more potatoes, some more leek and carrot, and then the beautiful chard, which we're just picking bits off. It is starting to come to an end. I'll keep that going through the winter, but then it will probably bolt in the spring. So we'll stop in the spring, but I can get plenty off that between now and then. This is that spinach that I moved. I'm getting little tiny pickings off it, but it's not really doing much. And then these are the leftovers of the chilli. As you can see, the cold has now got to them. So I will make a job this week. I say job, it's not a job. It's something that I enjoy. It's never a chore, a task or a job. They're just things that I enjoy doing. But I will get round to, getting rid of those and emptying out those pots. So the Polytunnel, as you're aware, is all ready for winter. Let's go and have a little look. See, it's so it's 8.1 degrees in here at the moment and 6.4 degrees outside. And I'll just have a little look. So it's been a maximum of 16.3 inside and 10.5 outside. So still quite warm in here, but it has been down to 0.5 degrees outside and 2.2 degrees inside. So I'm just going to reset those. There we go. So that's that all reset. I do try and do it every day, but I'll be honest with you, it doesn't always get done daily. But I do quite like to keep an eye on, just out of interest really, how things have been going. And then one of the other things I need to do in here, I don't know how well, oh yes, it will show up on the camera. You can see that's quite mucky, and there's also some algae. And very much, let's just duck under the wind chime. Here you can see, this is where those sunflowers were. And I did spray some of the polytunnel, but I didn't do it all, and you can see there's a lot of algae there. So that's another job that needs doing. But if I just take you round, so this I bought from the place beginning with A that we all tend to buy things from, and I bought it last year. I bought it in January actually, and I did do a little video, those of you might remember watching it, of me using this to spray the outer polytunnel, and I use Algon, which is recommended by the people that I bought this polytunnel from. This is actually a First Tunnels polytunnel. Other polytunnels are available, but they recommend the Algon. It's environmentally friendly, it's pet friendly, it's really easy to use, and more importantly it works. It's really effective. You just spray it on, you don't have to rinse it, you leave it, and it does a fantastic job. This little tub makes up 8 litres, and it's a spray. It's one of these jobbies. I bought it last year in the January, and it was okay. It was a little bit leaky around the joints and around the wand, but it did do the job. I used it a second time and it was less effective. I filled it up ready to roll, and I want to do the inside and the outside of the polytunnel. I also want to do the horse trailer, and it's just rubbish. It's not working at all. So I've got all this liquid here ready to spray, but I can't use it because the whole thing is just faulty. So a little bit disappointed. It wasn't ridiculously expensive, but it wasn't cheap either, and to only really get one decent use out of it. So we're going to have to get another means of spraying and then just tip that out. Today would have been a perfect day. Yesterday was a little bit drier as well. Ideally you want, a dry spell, which at this time of the year is difficult, but that's something I will get on and do. It's just I don't tend to keep it made up for too long. It will be relatively effective, but I like to make it up and use it. But it's one of those things. So until I get another sprayer, that job's just going to have to wait. So as I say, not much going on in the polytunnel. Well, actually, there's quite a lot going on in the polytunnel, but nothing new. So this patch here is where my rhubarb is, and as you can see I've just mulched that over with some chicken bedding. So this is, obviously there's a lot of chicken poo in there, and there's also the shredded paper and straw which are mixed in together. And then if we come round here, so I think I last showed you that I'd cardboarded this bed and started putting the chicken bedding down in the middle, and I'd started with some cardboard in that middle bed. So we've got the combination of the chicken bedding, and there's also some of the longer haylage spread over the top there. And then the same on this middle bed, it's completely covered over with card, and then on top of that is the chicken bedding and some haylage. And then this was the bed that the squash were in, which I've now cleared and weeded, and that's just been mulched over with some of the haylage. I didn't have any more cardboard, so I've just mulched that over, and I'm just going to put a little bit more on each bed until they're completely covered and you can't really see any either cardboard or soil with the chicken bedding as that comes out each week, and that will be straw for the next few weeks. And then I'm going to leave them well alone. We've just got the celery here, which I'm still cutting bits off and using for cooking, and there is across there, that is an alpine strawberry, which should survive over the winter. And then I do also want to just do a little bit more weeding of the pathway, which is bark chip, and I need to put some more bark down there. So between now and spring, I'm going to put more bark down on the pathway. I'm going to put more mulch down over the top of these beds, and in the spring top all 3 beds with some compost. So I hope you're all well. I hope you're all managing to do a few little bits and bobs around your plots and your homesteads and with your animals. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Take care, and I'll see you all again soon.